Okay, third time recording. Let's try and do this quicker. Um, Hi. I've given up entirely. I hate this. I hate this map. This map sucks. It's completely uninspiring. I'm trying to create a kind of Mordor, Bloodborne looking evil level at the end with all of these sort of crooked, sort of worn down. What would you call them? Like industrial looking houses, and they all look crap. They are nowhere near up to the standard that I want to get them, and working with pixel art is tedious and I hate it. I've always hated it. I've been mapping these levels for about a year now with various results. You know, you've probably seen some of my stuff here before. Um, some of it looks quite nice. I quite like it when it starts working. But when you start making villages and stuff like that, it gets so boring. And these projects, they just go out of control. I mean, there's so many layers in here, and it's just like and just look at all of this junk. It just goes on and on and on and on forever. And then you've got to cut it all up and do all your parallax messing about with it, and it's just doing my head in. And so I give up. But we haven't given up. Actually, no, we've evolved. We've evolved, and this has come way too late. So, what I've decided to do is actually start working in the miracle cure for everything, which is Blender 3D. And Blender 3D is amazing. Oh, look at it. No, it's seriously the best piece of software I've ever used. I can't sing its praises enough. Um, but obviously, people are scared of it because it's a big, scary program, and it does take a while to get used to. And they also get this impression that it's really, really slow to work in 3D, and they get the impression um, uh, but it's just a false impression, and I'm gonna try and prove that for you right now. And the other drawback of working in 3D, which is not actually a drawback, but it's a little problem that has to be solved, is how to deal with the perspective of an RPG Maker map, because the RPG Maker perspective, as you can see in any of these maps, is that it's actually really, really weird. It's obviously it's not perspective. That there's no vanishing point, but it's not even orthographic or what you might call isometric either. It's a kind of pseudo orthographic perspective where the camera is tilted up about sort of 45 degrees, looking down at the map. Um, you know, but the but everything sort of on the z-axis pointing up towards the sky never foreshortens. And I'll try and demonstrate that here by just adding a cube into this. Don't worry, like, this isn't a tutorial, this is just to sort of demonstrate an idea of how you can, like, if you want to take the 3D route, this is your solution. And um, so like I say, if I tilt the camera upwards, you can see this front face is getting shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter, yeah? And even if I'm looking at it in orthographic view, like, as I tilt the camera up, the front gradually gets shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter until you can't see it anymore. Yeah, so I'm just, so 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 what the hell is going on with the RPG Maker perspective? Well, the RPG Maker perspective is actually shearing it. So it's basically taking the back edge of all your buildings and everything, and it's grabbing it upwards like that. Now, I suppose, I mean, you could, like, work entirely just like on a slope, but that would be really weird to do. You know, if you're building a town, you want to just be able to build a town on a flat plane, and kind of pop it into this bizarre sheared um, world. And so whilst I could shear every object individually using the shear tool down here, which I won't bother to show you because it's the wrong way of doing it, there's actually a better way. But before I show you that better way, I'm going to show you basically how quick it is to model something like a house, let's say. And just, if you've ever modeled a house in RPG Maker, um, or just using 2D software, and trying to do pixel art, you know how long this kind of stuff takes. And I just want to show you how fast I can knock something up really, really quickly in Blender. That's going to be, with a bunch of details in it, and just it's just so much faster working in 3D software. It really is. Once you get the hang of it, and you start to understand how to control everything on the various axes, it's just infinitely better. And so if I just do an E here, maybe scale that out, maybe scale this. This might be a bad idea, but I'll try it. E scale. Yeah, okay, that's alright. And I'll add a chimney in as well. EZ and scale Z0, EZ, and I'm adding, quite a lot of detail into it, really. Hang on a second. EZ. It's been ages since I've used Blender. E and E scale. No. I. Yeah, way too much detail for a demo. But okay, so you get it, right? We've got a house and we knocked it up in basically no time at all. Like I say, I'm not going to texture it fully, but I will add a brick texture to it. And there's a shortcut to adding brick textures onto stuff. And this is using something called a plugin called Blender Kit. And so if I go into Blender Kit here, and I go to the materials tab, there's all of these different brick textures, and so I can just select any one of these brick textures I like, and hopefully I do sometimes get little issues downloading stuff, but hopefully I can just bang this texture on straight away, and then when we flip into textured view, you're going to be able to see this brick texture, which will all be distorted and warped to begin with, but yep. But straight away we've got a brick texture on it, and then with a couple of little button clicks, which is A, U, come on, sorry, tab, A, U, and key projection, yep, and now we've got bricks on everything, and I can also scale these bricks in as well. So straight away we've got a house. You can imagine, once you've got the roof all sorted on it and all of that kind of stuff, it could look wicked. But we've still got this problem to solve of this weird shearing that we want to do, and there's a method for doing this. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to add what's called a lattice in. And so if I go to Shift A and I add a lattice here, and I can grab this up on the Z. Actually no, I won't grab it. I'll just edit the properties. So I'm gonna increase the resolution to 64 by 64, which it just happens to be as high as you can go with it. But on the W axis, I'm gonna stick it down to just 1. Right, so we basically just turned it into a plane, which has been subdivided up into a grid, and then I'm going to scale this up to fit this underlying plane here, right, which is like my ground plane that I've already got grass texture on, and then I can map this to this, affix it to the ground plane using another modifier called the shrink wrap modifier, right. And then I can target that to the ground plane, yeah. And so now, if I rotate this ground plane, yeah, I hope I've done everything right there. This lattice moves with the ground plane, so I'm moving the ground plane and the lattice is coming with it. And you can see that that lattice is actually stretching, but it doesn't really matter. And so now, the point of a lattice is basically like a deformation modifier that you can apply to any object in your scene. So I can grab this, for example, and by the way, I'm actually going to delete that lattice because I've actually already created one, and so that was just for demonstration purposes. Pretend I haven't deleted anything, and this was the one that I was working on, right? But this thing here, I can add a modifier to it. This house that we've just built, I can add a modifier to it called lattice, wherever it is. There it is, and then I can select the lattice object there. Brilliant. And now this will skew depending on where that lattice comes, how that lattice forms, and of course that lattice is attached to the ground plane. So when I rotate this ground plane now, if I've got the right object selected, which I don't, there, so I'm rotating the ground plane now, and that house is getting skewed with it. And any object that I put onto, that I add this lattice modifier to now, will also skew with the ground plane. So everything in the scene can all be skewed at once. And because we've got our camera set up with in orthographic mode, if I just show you my camera settings as well, wait a second, where's my camera, let's make that visible. If you can see here under camera settings, there's different types of cameras. Normally it's perspective, but I've set it to orthographic. So if we look through the camera now, you can see that from face on, this is basically almost perfectly the kind of perspective that you would get from like if you were making an RPG Maker asset. And I can move things left and right and backwards and forwards, and at any time if I want to like just model like in a way that is less weird, like without this skewing, I can revert back on the to 0 rotation on the plane, and then I can just model like normal and like build houses in a way that makes sense to the human brain, and then at any point just pop it back on and then hit the camera and take a screenshot of it and build out a scene. And I can show you here that I've created some other little bits in this. So I've got some like little bits of ground, and I've only just been doing this morning, just faffing about. And these can be like pulled apart and stretched. Here you can see like these textures have been stretched, but there's no problem to fix that. Just click into U and Q projection, or maybe it is a bit of a problem to fix it. Never mind, who cares? We'll figure it out. Like I say, early doors. I think I've got another house that I've created in here as well. Where's that gone? Probably buried under something else. Little house over here, and I can scale these up dead easily, scale them down, whatever, doesn't matter. So make a whole bunch of houses. I can also copy the textures straight across from one house to another. So for example, this house, if I look at its materials, it's got bricks 001 on here. Maybe I want this house to be bricks 001, so just change the material. Bricks 001. There we go. Now that's got the new material on it. So instantly just being able to switch out the materials of houses and stuff. Also, because this is 3D, if I go into a proper rendered mode now, you can see that it's actually casting shadows from the light source, which is up here. And I can move this light source, of course. So I can move the light source over to the right, rotate it maybe on the Z a bit, and now the shadows are being cast from a different direction. If it's too dark, I can bang the power of the light source up, maybe to 3000. Yep, just brighten up the scene. We could change the shape and size of the light sources to maybe soften the shadows out, but I won't bother with that right now. And we could even change the color of the light. So we could have like it flooding the scene with like a I don't know, some sort of autumn or sunset colors instead. And so you can like take your entire scene and just bash it into a completely new color palette. You can imagine doing sort of night and day cycles type stuff with this. Um, is there anything else? Well, I guess I'll leave it there. Oh no 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 no! There is one thing, of course. Um, with Blender Kit, uh, like I showed you, you can download different materials, but you can also download full models, and a lot of these models are completely free for anybody to use. Sorry, find models here, and as you can see, there is a selection of pre-made houses. Now, some of these you have to pay for, these ones with the locks on, but there are some really nice models. Um, that you don't have to pay for. You just got to rummage through and find the ones that don't have locks on. For example, that one looks quite nice. You know, a bit modern for a typical RPG Maker thing, but they do exist, and you really don't need highly detailed models. I mean, you could get something like this, and in fact, I think this is something that I've already downloaded. Which is like really cool, probably too high poly for what we're doing, um, for our purposes, but I've actually already downloaded that house, and it should be in here somewhere around here. And as you can see, like just straight away, just popping in a super high quality model. But the amazing thing about this is because this is 3D and it's all being thrown through modifiers, is I can get this model and I can rotate it on the Z-axis like so. It's a bit tricky to see what I'm doing with the render mode on, but and just rotate it all the way around, yeah, to a completely different angle, which would be absolutely impossible to do in 2D work. But of course, it's retaining that perfect orthographic perspective, or that pseudo orthographic perspective that RPG Maker uses. So right, that's it. I hope you found that fascinating, and I can't wait to show you like some of the other stuff that I've got planned to sort out, because this is, like I said, this is really early doors. This is day one of working in this method. So give me a month and see what I come up with. All right, take care, bye.